Busted Open. Here are your hosts, Doug Mortman and Dave LaGreca.
Oh, yes! Busted Open on a Monday. Good week to everybody. Let's crank it up here. Pro Wrestling's finest, Sirius 92, XM 208, and on the SiriusXM app. Welcome to Sportszone, the one and only Busted Open talking pro wrestling with you. 866-522-2846. Mortman, LaGreca, Boogie Woogie Man, Mike Riker, and the great at Keep It 5-Star Kyle Lewis on the video cam. Why? Because the great A-Double, in fact, the greatest man that ever lived, is sitting to my right, to your left, Dave, Austin Aries. What's up, bro?
Man, it is so great to be back here, but did you say the Boogie Woogie Man?
The Boogie Woogie Man, right there.
I thought you were talking about Jimmy Valiant for a second.
No, our version of
your
the Boogie
version.
Woogie. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's great to be back, guys. It's been a long time since I've been here, man.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the show. It's probably been about 7 years before you graced the SiriusXM studios.
Well, I don't live around these parts too much anymore, so I don't have the opportunity to get in here. But I was in town, and I said I got to make it in, and I got to hang out with the guys and do a little Busted Open.
Well, A-Double, I mean, clearly from your tweets, you are not from this side of the area. I mean, what did you say? You're a proud Midwesterner, and you were pretty irritated with the New York traffic. Now, I am a New York driver. I am fairly aggressive. But
Sure.
You have to be aggressive in New York, or else people take advantage of you.
Well, I think you have to be assertive.
Good way to put it.
But I think also a little bit of etiquette out there would go a long way. And I think if everybody was, a little kinder to the person next to him on the road, I think traffic would move a little smoother. But when everybody's trying to, it's like everybody thinks that they're special, like they're the one that should get to roll up alongside of you on the side of the road while everyone's trying to merge, and they should get to scoot ahead a half a mile.
He makes a good point.
Dave, I am
Austin
special.
makes a good point because people in New York don't know how to merge. Like the signs that are on the side of the roads are there for a reason, means follow them. And New Yorkers, like you said, feel they're too special to follow the rules of the road.
Or the rules apply to everyone, well, except me, because, I'm more important than the rest of the people. So
that's true.
I should get to go ahead.
If nobody pays attention to the rules of the road, then
really,
what does it matter?
It just comes down to the basic
chaos.
premise is greed. People are just greedy, and they always put themselves before the person next to them. And I think that's one of the major flaws of our species.
Well, basically, you're also saying that greed is more of a New York thing than a Midwest thing.
Well, not necessarily. There's just a lot more people around, so it's even more important to not be so greedy on the road. Because honestly, it took us about almost 5 hours driving from Connecticut to get to New York. And the traffic wasn't backed up because of an accident. It was just backed up because people don't know how to drive.
He's angry.
I'm not angry.
It's a little bit. A little bit.
So,
well, listen, being in the car with Doug Mortman, I can live with what you're going through right now.
You have a problem when I drive,
Doug,
Dave.
You're the type of guy, you're going off an exit and you're supposed to go 15 miles an hour. You think it's 60. You're going 50 on the actual highway, and you do 65 on the exit.
Accelerating through the turns.
There's no car in front of them now, yeah. And the other big thing is blinkers. They're right there. They're right there. I mean, it's really a simple thing. And I always use my blinker. I'm not going to divulge in the story why I always use my blinker, but it was something I learned early on in my driving. And it's such a simple thing. It's just being courteous to the people around you. Let them know what you're doing,
I'm kind of down on that.
And also, New Yorkers think that the horn is just an aggressive tool. Like the horn is to say basically is a curse word.
I thought they used the horn kind of like Morse code. I thought they had like some alphabet all figured out with the different horn sounds. I mean,
I'm surprised you want to be so nice and sensitive to your fellow drivers. I'm surprised you're not like waving out the window. Hey, got to make a left-hand turn.
I'm waving out the window with one finger. You bet. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm gonna change that. The middle finger has kind of lost its effect. It's been kind of overdone. I like to do the thumbs down. Nobody likes to get pointed at and given the thumbs down. Like, you, sir, thumbs down. That gets people more agitated, I've found, than the middle finger, because we've been desensitized to that. The thumbs down, nobody likes the thumbs down, I found out. So if you guys want to start using it, just make sure you point to him first. Hey you, thumbs down. You, thumbs down.
I'm into it, man. I'm going to use that from now on.
And I'll tell you what, I live in Florida right now, and there's a whole different problem with driving down there, and that's people in whatever lane they want, driving whatever speed they want, oblivious to what's going on around them. It's everywhere. It's every place has a little different feel to the driving. You know, I've lived in Baltimore and Philly. It's no better there. So I'm not picking just on New Yorkers. It just happened to be that's where I was last night. It took an exceptionally long time, and I was a little agitated.
Well, you got it in Florida because that's where New Yorkers go to retire.
Sure.
So they've moved that from
New York
into Florida.
Just the worst.
Worthless, useless human beings, aren't they?
Now that we've gone through driving across the Eastern Seaboard, maybe we should morph into a little pro wrestling.
I like
Dave.
it. 10 minutes into the show, we haven't talked to wrestling at all.
I mean, if we have to,
what
sure.
a change.
Well, it is great to have A-Double up in studio with us. Finally, great to have him on our turf. We've spoken to you many a time face-to-face, but it's usually at a TNA event.
And off the record.
And typically off the record. Especially that last time.
That's right.
Take us back a year. It's pretty amazing how this whole year for you has gone because, I mean, a year ago, from Destination X and trading in to Champion and, talk about a buzz going into Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
And what a difference now to then. I mean, it's, and I'd almost rather start then because we were so excited with you as the champion and you and Jeff Hardy. And listen, it was a very exciting time for TNA. Take us back a year.
Well, everything you just outlined, it kind of just all snowballed. I was given opportunities. Obviously, I felt I took advantage of them. The people within the company agreed with me, and they kept giving me bigger opportunities, which obviously culminated in Bound for Glory with Jeff Hardy and obviously capturing the World Heavyweight Championship before that. I was excited for the momentum I had, and, for whatever reason, it kind of, came to a halt, and now I'm kind of trying to rebuild that, and I think I'm slowly doing that, and hopefully in a year from now we're talking about me main event next year's Bound for Glory, once again the World Heavyweight Champion.
It's funny, in July of 2012, I went to the yearly baseball that they have in Brooklyn, and I was able to speak to Dixie Carter, and she actually came up to me and said, what are you thinking of the company right now? And I said, absolutely great. I said, I love the fact that, Austin Aries is in a position that he's in, that he's the champion now. There's a buzz around the company. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that since Ric Flair's been gone, there's the lack of factions in TNA. Mm-hmm. It just seems like everything I said went in the opposite. So obviously she doesn't respect my opinion at all.
Your opinion obviously is not held in very high regard.
So, when you see that buzz that was there in 2012, do you look back on it and said, why is that gone now?
Well, you know what? I know why it's gone, but I'll keep that to myself. I don't control those decisions. All I can control is the things that are put in front of me, and I feel whatever you put on my tee, I'm going to knock out of the park. So I've always felt that way, and the decisions that are made as far as, what's going to happen creatively, that's above my pay grade, as they say. And quite frankly, it's not something I want to stress myself out with too much because I'm a very passionate guy. I'm an opinionated guy. I love the industry. I've followed it since I can remember. And but you know what? I got to control the things I can control, and that's usually with a mic in my hand or when I step in between the ropes.
How is it for you, a consummate professional, somebody that's been at pretty much every level of pro wrestling, going into the locker room, and now you have less comrades in the back there. You have these releases coming down. The locker room changes, people leave. Mm-hmm. How does that feel as a performer when things start to get chipped away a little bit?
Well, I mean, you look at it two ways, and I think some people look at the turnover and the releases, as you say, and they try to put a negative connotation on it. But I think really in any business, and especially if you look in the sports world, you need to keep that middle ground fresh. And I think in wrestling, it's the same way. You give guys opportunities. Some guys grab the brass ring and run with it. Some guys don't. But you can't stagnate with that. So you need turnover because it keeps that fire lit underneath everybody. It keeps everybody performing at the best of their abilities. Nobody gets comfortable. You don't want people getting comfortable and coming to work just to collect a paycheck. So you want to keep people on their toes, and I don't think that the turnover is a bad thing. It gives new guys opportunities. It keeps some fresh faces for the fans, so they don't get sick of the same old. And I think that that's a successful recipe for any business.
How's the locker room? It's how's the atmosphere in the locker room right now?
I think it's the same it's always been. I mean, and just like any, I'm sure it is like here. There's weeks where you guys come in and you got a great feeling about things, and then maybe other weeks where you're a little down about this, that, or the other. But overall, to me, I haven't seen a huge change in the locker room. I think we all understand, what the company is structured like. We kind of understand why things happen. And again, I think a lot of the guys take the same approach I do. Let's focus on what we can control and make the best of what we're given.
Is it fair to say that Austin Aries is one of the ultimate company guys? And the reason I say this, not only company guy, consummate professional, leader, are words that I'd put out there. Because when I see somebody who was a main event performer, but not just a main event performer, a guy that did garner the buzz, got the fans really jacked about what you were doing and what the company was doing a year ago, and now we morph to today, and from what I'm seeing in the last week, you are back in the X division. So I don't want to say that that's a step down, but what I would say is you are a main event performer, but it seems like you are also the consummate company guy to say, okay, you know what? They need me in the X division, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you can rebuild that X division. I don't know what's in your head. Tell us about the move back to X.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily define, say, I'm back in the X division per se. Right now, obviously, I started a little something this last week with Chris Sabin and kind of interjecting with him and a little banter back and forth there, and we'll see where that progresses to. I do think I've always tried to be a company guy, and I think sometimes my passion and my outspokenness can kind of be misconstrued. I've never been a selfish performer. I'm always trying to come up with the best ideas for the company to succeed. It's never really been about myself, and I've also prided myself on the fact that wherever you need me to slot in on the card, I can do it. If you need me to go out there and get the card off to a good start by opening the night out, I can do that. You need me to give you a 30-minute compelling main event feel match, I can do that. You need me to put me in the tag division, I can do that. You need me to go in the X division, I can do that. And I think that's something that was always very important to me when I broke in, is I never want to be pigeonholed as just this or just that. I want to be as well-rounded and be as versatile as I can, because that just means that you're that much more valuable to whatever company you work for.
And you're also the king of the 5-star match. Doug and I break down Impact Wrestling every Friday, and usually the one great thing from the show is your match, whoever it might be. Do you feel any pressure that you have to be that 5-star match week in and week out?
No, not really. I mean, I have supreme confidence in my abilities in there, and I don't know what constitutes a 5-star match or a 4-star match. I know me and some of the comrades, we joke about it, and one of the things I thought I've tossed around once my website's up and running is actually start doing reviews of the guys' reviews of the matches and give them star ratings for their reviews to basically call them out on the fact that they don't know what they're talking about 9 times out of 10. So that's for the fans to dictate star ratings and this and that. And the funny thing is, I have a lot of friends who are just more casual wrestling fans and who I've got back into the product because they know me. And they don't know what a good match or a bad match is. They know that some matches are more entertaining than others, but they don't have a criteria for what level a match is. And a lot of these guys, they get more into the characters and the story development. And I think it's important for us to remember that the passionate hardcore fans are looking at the wrestling, and that's maybe where they get their entertainment value. But that whole other large part of the pie, they're following the storylines. They like the characters. They might like the factions, And so we have to remember, we don't want to alienate them too, because really that's a bigger piece of the pie that we need to pull from.
It's funny too, because you have your storylines, but now we're calling it the new kayfabe on our show on Busted Open, in that you have all these wrestling companies that are now interjecting reality.
Sure.
And it's almost perceived reality versus, is this really happening, and is this a concocted drama? So is it storyline? It's really, I guess, the new kayfabe in that it's trying to keep the wrestling fan guessing.
Sure.
As somebody such as yourself, do you like the way pro wrestling is going in that regard?
I've always said that the best pro wrestling is when you pull from reality the most you can. The more authentic you can make it, the more tied to reality it is, I think the more people grab onto it. I think that's the reason people have gravitated towards my character over the years, is there's an authenticity to it. I'm not really putting on too much of an act. I might be turning up the dial one way or the other, but I am who I am, and that comes out in my character when I'm on screen. But yeah, as the fans get smarter or think they're getting smarter, we have to find ways to keep them off their, on their toes and off balance and keep them guessing, because, that's the name of the game. That's where the drama comes in.
Were you surprised by, we mentioned Bound for Glory before, were you surprised in Arizona that the 90% of the crowd was behind you in that match with Jeff Hardy?
Absolutely not, and I told the powers to be that's exactly how it would be, whether or not I kicked Jeff Hardy in the balls the week before. They disagreed with me, and, well, I was right and they were wrong. So. And I have a job there and they don't.
But, I'll tell you what was interesting, and this is where when you get two great performers in the ring, you guys are kind of able to make it work in that we saw it developing. We saw the crowd. It was like basically, all right, Aries is going to have to be the face in this match, and Hardy's going to have to kind of be heelish. And you guys really pulled it off magnificently. It was a fantastic match. By the way, a ridiculously hard match because it was a couple matches after the bloodbath that was Rude and Storm.
Sure.
Not an easy act to follow either.
Well, and something, too, that I didn't really publicize much of the time, but, for about 4 or 5 months before that and to about a year after that, I was dealing with a annular tear in my lower back and a disc, a bulged and a herniated disc in my back. So I was battling through a lot of injuries. So from a personal standpoint, I took a lot of pride in a lot of those performances because I knew that the pain I was dealing with going out there to perform at that level. And that's not to say that we don't all do that at some point in a career. Jeff's done it in his career. He'll do it again. I'll do it again. I mean, that's part of the game. But, when you have those limitations and you're able to go out there and create that kind of atmosphere and put on that performance, it's satisfying. And I think, too, I think one place wrestling is progressing and needs to progress is, in life there's not clear-cut bad guys and good guys. Everybody's a shade of gray. You talk about Sons of Anarchy. Well, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? It's not. It's shades of gray. And I think as long as you have strong, authentic characters, people are going to gravitate towards the characters they relate to. And Jeff Hardy is a strong, authentic character, and he's got his fan base that's very, they're very loyal to him. And I think I'm the same way. And I was trying to express that you can't just change that overnight. People have followed me for a long time. They feel passionate about and loyal to me and my character in the same way about Jeff. So why try to turn one whole side against the other? It's just not going to happen. It's better off to have these, to just play against each other. And everything's shades of gray. And some days you wake up and you're a better person than others. Some days you wake up, you're in an ornery mood and you walk around full of piss and vinegar. Other days you wake up, you're in a great mood. And I think that, wrestling should dictate real life, and it's how it is.
And honestly, that's why I enjoy watching Aries in the ring, because you really don't know which Aries you're going to get on a day-to-day basis. That's why I love watching you with TNA. You come out, and honestly, one show we're like, boy, this guy is a little heelish, and now he's a babyface. And it could be literally a different Aries from show to show. It keeps people guessing. It keeps people interested.
Well, and it's also who am I interacting with? Because there's obviously some guys who, when I interact with them, because maybe, a guy like Jeff Hardy's, he's universally loved. I mean, he's probably one of the last true good guys and baby faces who the people just take to, so when I'm interacting with him, it might seem like I'm being kind of more of a dick, for lack of a better term. If I'm dealing with Bobby Roode, who's kind of a dick himself, now they're looking at me going, okay, maybe I like this Aries guy a little more. So and that's where the dynamics of the characters come in, and that's why as long as you have strong, authentic characters, I think the entertainment value is in how those characters interact and the dynamics of those different characters. And not everybody is going to be playing the same role or be taken the same way every time.
See, now he redefined what a face is. Whoever is less than a dick.
That's right.
If this guy's more a dick, then that's the guy's the face.
There you go.
And,
careful when you say dick in the face. That close together.
And start cursing on the show, by the way. He's the one with the 9-year-old daughter.
That's not a curse.
You can say whatever you want.
Dick's a name.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. In Arizona, I was actually rooting for Jeff Hardy, and I thought I was going to get lynched in the parking lot. And then the other thing is I was ridiculed on this show by the Busted Open Nation for cheering for the good guy.
Then again, I also thought you were going to get hepatitis or something because there's a guy that was standing out there when James Storm was bleeding all over him. He bled into his beer. The guy saved the beer and chugged it in the parking lot, asked Dave for a sip if he wanted a sip. So it could have been worse for you.
That basically sums up wrestling fans.
Hey, you're talking about the people who listen to this show,
This is the
Austin.
nation right here.
And
you're not going to hear me
those
say
are
a
the
bad
people
word.
I'm not telling them anything they don't know. All right.
He did drink that cup of bloodied beer.
It was a great match, though.
Thank you.
It was a great match.
I every time I've gotten there with Jeff, I've always enjoyed it. He's he's so unique and one of a kind, and we mesh together well. Our styles just happen to click, and To be quite honest, outside of the ring, I think that we're probably a little more like-minded than people realize as far as artistically and just mindset.
Oh, so you're out there, right?
I'm a little out there. I view the world in a whole different shade than most people.
I could just imagine what that conversation's like before a match, and you're going over the matches like, and Jeff's like, I'm going to get the power from the moon, and because he just seems like he's like so out there,
but he's really not. Jeff's a real quiet guy. I mean, and real kind of quiet and to himself. So I think he saves that for on camera or his inner monologue or whatever's going on there.
The inner monologue. We love those spots. Yeah.
Good thing you couldn't pick up my inner monologue. It's all I'm going to say because I probably wouldn't have a job right now.
Neither would we.
I would get censored off a spike, that's for sure. The greatest man that ever lived in studio with us, Austin Aries, only on Busted Open. We'll be back after this, 866-522-2846. Let's get some phones going as well. Busted Open on a Monday.
It's Busted Open with Dave LaGreca and Doug Mortman.
Man, what a catchy tune. Listen to that, huh? It just gives you goosebumps.
Really does. That Dale Oliver knows what the hell he's doing, doesn't he, that Dale Oliver?
Like I said, catchy tune, man. Just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
There's nothing like sitting here next to A-Double. His interest music is playing, and I'm just staring at him, waiting to see if what he's going to say.
I'm in a band right now. We play some pretty good music. And
Get out of here.
Yeah.
What do you play?
I'm actually the front man, believe it or not. Yeah.
Really?
I'm a little bit of a singer.
Wow. What's the band called?
Unnamed right now. That's not important.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like the young wrestler he's got his name picked out. He's got his 16 different outfits. He's got 2 pairs of wrestling boots, and he hasn't even learned any holds yet. It's like we're not going to put the cart before the horse. The name's not important. We're original music. We want to get a good solid 12 songs we feel good about, and then we'll put it out there for everybody.
What type of music? What's the niche?
Alternative rock, I think.
All right.
Yeah. So some people say I've got a little bit of Eddie Vedder in my voice.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, just kind of give you an idea.
That's...
Maybe someday, if we can, hone our craft and make a name, maybe we can do a little something with Fozzy. That'd be a hell of a show, wouldn't it?
Ooh, double bill. Maybe Jeff Hardy can get on that too, as well.
You know what? I pitched this idea, not to anybody who makes decisions, but just amongst the circles. I thought TNA should have an pay-per-view solely based on all the musical talent. You could have had, Mickey James. Yeah. You could have Brooke Hogan when she was there. Jeff Hardy obviously sings. I know Frankie Kazarian's in a band. I do a little singing. So I thought, our fans have seen us wrestle 100,000 times against every person, but they've probably never seen us up there singing. So I thought that'd be a really cool thing to see us outside of our element, and then the rest of the guys would be in like a karaoke contest. So you'd have the bands each play a couple of numbers. You'd have the rest of the guys do a little karaoke contest.
You had me there for a little bit. You kind of
come on. The karaoke contest would be hot. You know it would.
Well,
you get up there, do a little Hootie the Blowfish, and just listen to panties start dropping.
And when you mentioned Brooke Hogan being a singer, that was a little bit of a stretch.
Brooke Hogan, I like Brooke. So
no, I thought she was fantastic in the role she was playing. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
It was an unusual exit for Brooke. It was like one day she was there and one day she was gone. So things happen. That said,
having been married twice, I can relate.
Yeah, you weren't married. You weren't married and engaged at the same time, now, were you? Think about that. But Hulk, Daddy. Interesting situation with him, as all the speculation, not only with Hulk, but with AJ and their expiring contracts. I got to be honest with you. It's a storyline I'm not in love with for this reason. I think it's almost talking about something that should not be out there. You want to blur the lines between reality and storyline. That's all well and good. But now we're talking about Hogan and AJ with real-life situations that they could potentially be out the door. What if they actually are out the door?
Right. Well, and I think it goes back to, too, is that, while the tight-knit community of wrestling fans are privy to that information, and it might get them excited because they know it's actually really behind the scenes legitimate, I think to the casual fans, it's lost on them because they don't follow it that closely, and that's not why they watch the product necessarily.
So it's a dangerous line, though, because you almost have to recognize there is the casual fan, because we talk about it all the time. Like a pay-per-view may get 20,000 buys for TNA, but you have over 1 million people watching every Thursday. So I'm sure most of the audience, isn't listening to Busted Open, and most of that audience isn't reading the dirt sheet, so they probably don't know what Hulk Hogan's talking about.
Right. And that's something we also be mindful of as performers when we're out there is we don't want to be too smart for our audience. We're a lot more plugged in and in tune to those behind the scenes things, but majority of the time, the vast majority of the audience isn't, and sometimes we can outsmart ourselves sometimes with the things that we do out there.
Is it hard to satisfy the wrestling fan? Because especially in this day and age
Not
now
for me.
with talk radio. No, I know you. You're probably the wrong person to talk to about this. But, I mean, for the wrestling fan, though, in general, it just seems like, I know from taking phone calls on this show, most of the phone calls are negative.
Sure.
Are bashing whatever company that they're talking about at the time. Is it hard?
No, because here's the reality, and this is in any subculture I've seen. I've had friends who are in the comic book artists. I have friends who are in music scenes. The people who are going to take the time to call out are those ones who are always going to call to bitch about something. They're never happy, and they get some kind of satisfaction by calling and putting that negativity out there because somehow it makes them feel better about themselves because, well, I would have done it better, or they should have done this and this was wrong. And those people are always going to exist, and you have to remember that that's a small vocal minority. And it's good to keep the thumb on that pulse, but it's also good to put that in perspective because you're never going to make everybody happy, and especially that cross-section of people who are just always going to find something to be miserable about. It's like if you dislike it so much, why do you keep watching? If it's so bad, turn on something else. Turn on the Real Housewives of New Jersey or something. Gouge your eyes out,
Total Divas.
Gouge your eyes out.
866-522-2846. Austin Aries is kind enough to actually take a couple phone calls if you guys want to get in on it. 866-522-2846.
Is this the first time we've ever had an in-studio guest take phone calls?
No.
Well, let's just lie and say it is so I can set precedent.
It is.
Okay.
This year.
I know. This year, yes.
Is this the first Monday of the last Monday of the month where an in-studio guest is going to take phone calls?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. So I want to talk, 3 impacts away from Bound for Glory. But I want to talk about the Bound for Glory series itself because this is a debate that LaGreca and I have on this show. Every time this comes up now for the 3rd year, I hate Bound for Glory series because I feel like the Bound for Glory series, while I love the competitive element, putting it into pro wrestling, it takes away from those natural feuds that develop, and then you have a nice storyline, and then you have, a culmination of that feud, and that's, to me, how wrestling goes. You add the series, and now you're, okay, well, you have your brackets, and you're fighting this guy, and now you have this unnatural matchup, and now these guys, and it's so confusing, and you're so all over the place. How do you guys feel about the Bound for Glory series? And ultimately, how it turned out, obviously, was not so good because certain people didn't actually finish out the Bound for Glory series.
Well, it didn't turn out good because I didn't win it.
True. Well, that's also true.
You know what? I think the concept has a lot of potential. I agree with some of the points you made, but I think also what the Bound for Glory series could provide is the opportunity to see some matchups you wouldn't normally see because it's guys who would never be feuding. And I think for me, it gets maybe drug out a little too long, and also could be streamlined. And this is a personal preference. If you're going to put up 20 points for some battle royal match or some gauntlet, to me that defeats the purpose because these should be singles, one-on-one matches, 15-minute time limits, because that's what this is about. I'm not going to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship in a battle royal, So
so right.
And so, I mean, in some ways, it cheats the fans because for those people who maybe were really invested in it, and they thought, okay, this night is the last night to see who's going to make it on, and then, oh, hey, next week we're going to throw one more gauntlet out there for 20 points. It's kind of an insult, and I can understand as a fan why I would at that point tune out. And so I think that it's got a lot of potential. That being said, understand there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of factors behind the scenes that things have to be changed, things have to be maneuvered around, and that's the part that the fans don't understand. That there's sometimes necessities of why things have to be done. If I was in a position to give suggestions, I think maybe I would, bring the competitors down to maybe 8, maybe shorten it up, and then put a real importance on it. And maybe a couple of impacts would be strictly Bound for Glory series matches that night. Maybe once a month it's going to be nothing but Bound for Glory series matches. Or the other thing I've heard thrown out there, which I think is a good suggestion, is make it more of a tournament style. because people can follow tournaments. That's an easy concept to understand. And I think sometimes the point thing, can get confusing. It's this many points for victory, but if it's submission, it's this many points, but if he's disqualified, it's this. And again, to the casual fan who's not that invested into this, it just might go over their head. So, I mean, I think the concept's great. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think it's work in progress. And every year, I think we're trying to do it better, and we're listening to all the suggestions, and hopefully we'll continue to progress in that.
Yeah, because I love the concept and I understand what Doug's saying about storylines, and you have to put those on pause for the summer. But the reason I like it is because, like you said, that you don't know the combination of matches you're going to get. Plus, the live events mean something too, because some of those matches, are worth points, and you come invested. And I kind of like the fact that I keep going to the website to look at the leaderboard and see. Right. For me, it kind of seems like a real legitimate sports where you're looking at those standings. And so I was really, really into it. But I agree with what you said too. When you throw out a week before it's about to end and say, all right, we're going to have a gauntlet match on Thursday night worth 20 points, that means the person that's almost in last place can now jump to first place, and I think it loses its credibility.
You want to keep it as away from the team challenge series as possible.
Yeah, you want to. That
did not work for the AWA. So the further away it gets from the team challenge series, the better off.
Yeah, you look at the Crockett Cup of what you want it to be, and you kind of look at AWA 1990, and you want to stay away from that.
You got it.
866-522-2846. We do have a phone caller for A-Double over here. Truck driver Rick cruising through Alabama. What's up, Rick?
Not much, going through the land of catfish, I'm guessing, because every time I see a restaurant sign, they're serving catfish.
Delicious.
That's my best guess. It is. I've never had it, so I guess I actually might have to try it. Oh, you either.
He's a vegetarian, so.
Oh, I
vegan, actually, yeah.
Oh, you're full vegan.
2 years now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, you went full on there.
I did.
How is that going? That cannot be easy.
Feel great.
Yeah?
I look great. Taste great, I hear.
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, my question, we talked about this briefly Friday. Your entrance into the X Division, Mr. Aries, I'm guessing is a springboard to get you back into the world title hunt. Is there any truth behind that? Yes, no?
Obviously, it very well could be because, with the quote option C that they've kind of dubbed it, that, I kind of ushered in with the champion, the X Division champion, have the opportunity to cash that in for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. So the X Division always is going to have the potential to lead to the world title. I've always said this, championships don't rub me, I rub championships. So the X Division needs my help. The championship needs a little bit of help. A-Double to the rescue.
Well, I enjoy your performance in the ring, your promos. I've been watching wrestling since I was probably 8 years old, from Florida and all the way up. And you are just it's such magic when you're in the ring. No matter who you're with, you make that match great. And you just always have chemistry with anybody. And that is a rare thing, and I want to wish you the best of luck.
I really appreciate that, and you sound like a very smart gentleman for everything you just said.
Truck driver Rick.
Except for the catfish comment.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, he made a great point in the fact chemistry. It seems like you do have great chemistry with whoever you're in the ring with.
I've been lucky, and I think this is something that is the opportunity to wrestle a ton of different styles against a ton of different kind of people in different areas, different languages, different countries. It makes you learn how to adapt to whatever situation you're in. And I think, one thing you're seeing, the guys who are having the most success are coming from that background, a background that is well-rounded. I think it's really hard to be inside a box and to learn all those skills. And so, it's like dancing. If you know the dance steps, you should be able to get out there with someone else who knows the dance steps and dance. And if you don't, it could be a little challenging. So
it's really been an amazing 3 years for you and a couple of your ROH brethren. I mean, just take Punk 2011 into 2012, your 2012 into 2013, and then Daniel Bryan. I mean, did you have... I mean, we all knew how great he was as the American Dragon and everything he did with ROH, but taking that step to WWE, did you guys think that Daniel Bryan would be this big down the road?
I've said this for a long time that if you were able to succeed in Ring of Honor like all the guys you just mentioned, myself, were able to do, and you learn how to get over no matter where you are. WWE is just another place where you're going to get over. I mean, it's really that simple. Talent's talent, and understanding the business and understanding what you need to do to have people connect with you, that's not something you can necessarily teach. That's something that you either kind of have or you don't, and all those guys have it, and they had it back then, and they'll have it in 10 years. And that's why you can't sit there and judge a professional wrestler with a tape measure. It doesn't work that way, and I've been judged that way before. I'm sure I will again. And those people all failed in their assessment of my talent, and I'll prove that every time I step out there.
You mentioned Ring of Honor, and they have that rabid fan base. You just go a couple of blocks here to Hammerstein, some of the shows that ROH had there, and the way the fans are. TNA has a fan base, but it doesn't seem to be that rabid fan base. Do you see TNA fans going in that direction? And how do you make them go in that direction?
I don't know that that's a successful direction to try to go. I mean, if it was, Ring of Honor would be in a lot better position than it is now. The reality is that, and the listeners don't like to hear this, but the hardcore, tight-knit wrestling community is just a very small percentage of the overall piece of the pie. And if you cater to that small slice, you're missing out on the rest of the pie. So I think the idea is to keep them invested. And the thing is, if you can get a buzz with that core fan base, that will resonate to the common fan. So they are a very, very important part of our fan base. They're always going to be there. That's really the backbone, but you need to use them to help excite the common fans, and you can't cater to them, because to cater to them means you're probably going to lose a lot of the other people out there. So it's a slippery slope, and you just want to include as many people as you can in the entertainment value. And for some people, the entertainment value is judging matches and star ratings and false finishes and all these types of things. And for other people, it's something completely different. I think we have to keep that in mind.
866-522-2846. Maybe a call or two still left if you want to get in with Austin Aries. On the other side, I will ask him how truly close he came to retiring before this latest run with TNA. He was damn close. You'll hear it from the horse's mouth after this. It's Busted Open, Sirius 92, XM 208.
It's Busted Open on Sirius XM Radio. Here's Dave LaGreca and Doug Mortman.
See, Dave, I know this song. Are you a Weezer fan?
Not really. Not a Weezer fan.
It's the greatest man that ever lived.
Love this song, man.
Rivers.
It's actually where I stole my moniker from. I'm not going to lie.
Get out of here.
Sitting in the back seat in California, and I was thinking about kind of changing my character a little bit. I'd been in Ring of Honor for a long time as a fan favorite, and I really wanted to turn it upside down. And I was thinking about I needed some new music and kind of a new persona. And I was sitting in the back seat and I heard this song and I was like, there it is. Whoop, there it is. So, grew out some shitty mustache, and excuse my language if that's inappropriate.
No, it's not.
We
were just. Okay. Did you hear the opening of the show?
Yeah. So I mean,
okay, so it's all right.
So that's what everybody tries to correct me and says it's the greatest man whomever lived. I said, well, that's not what the title of the song was. So wrong.
So I said going into the break. So let me ask you now. We've talked about this before on the show, but for fans that don't reach that far back, what was it, 3-4 years ago into the memory archives? How close were you really to hanging it all up?
The funny thing is, I was just talking about today. About 3 or 4 weeks before I actually returned to TNA, I was actually in New York, and I was visiting. There's a vegetarian culinary school that's in New York, and I was visiting that because I'd actually kind of made the decision to transition to a different phase in my life. It wasn't saying I was going to close the door on wrestling forever, but I just felt at that time it felt appropriate to maybe put my energy and my focus somewhere else, because I kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels a little bit, and I didn't want to be a prisoner to the business. You see a lot of guys who that's all they know and that's all they can do, and I got a lot of the things that I'm interested in, and I think I have some talents in. So I felt at that point I was getting a little jaded towards the business, and it was best for me to maybe take a step back. I had no other bookings on my plate, and I was ready to do something else in my life for a while. And I made that decision, and then about 4 days later, TNA called and asked me to come down for, they're doing this little X Division thing and have you down for a match. And I said, yeah, why not, So, I mean, I don't like using the word retirement because, I don't know that I've done anything grand enough to, like, have some big retirement ceremony type of thing. And we all know that, how many times have people retired and came back and retired and came back. So it wasn't something I put out there. It was a decision I made for myself, and I was ready to, try something else. And, I'm so thankful that I got that call from TNA and got that opportunity to.
So are we, by
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, and that's still something that, eventually I still think I could see myself going into that field. I'm huge into cooking and fitness and diet and those types of things. So it's still something I'm pretty passionate about.
Does TNA realize that people buy tickets to TNA events to see you wrestle?
I hope so. I mean, I hear it enough, and I mean, pretty much everywhere I walk out, I think the reception I get should be a testament to that. So I'd like to think that they do.
Yeah, if they don't, you do.
Don't tell Dixie that, because last time you told her a bunch of stuff, the exact opposite happened. So.
And I mentioned you, and I was totally serious. I mean, because there has always been when it comes to TNA, it just seems that a lot of the hardcore wrestling fans are positive and negative. One day they love it, the next day they hate it. And then Doug will say it. The Monday after you won the title, I mean, lit phone lines, all show long, excited. It was almost like, your favorite team winning the Super Bowl.
Sure.
It's that great feeling.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of those fans, too, I mean, I've been doing this now for 13 years, and a lot of those people saw me when I was just starting out. They saw me maybe the first time I ever, Generation Next for Ring of Honor, the very, very first time I debuted there. So for them, it was, they were almost kind of the proud papa who had been watching me grow as a performer, and now I kind of, it culminated in that, and I think there was a sense of excitement because of that also. And, I was glad to be able to give that to them.
Real quick, any comments on the Christy Hemme situation at this point?
Yeah. That's a difficult situation. I'm not going to say a whole lot about it. It was an unfortunate event, and I'll just say I was kind of disappointed with the way things were handled on multiple levels, and I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Real quick, before we let you go, at this point next year, when, of course, we have you back in studio for your triumphant return,
yes,
will TNA still be on the road?
I don't know. I'm not in those meetings. I don't make those decisions. I hope they are. I mean,
you would hope that they stay traveling.
I mean, I think everybody feels that way. Now, I don't know the financial logistics of it. I think there's some things we could definitely do that would help us be successful while we're on the road as far as promoting and advertising. I think there's some things we maybe dropped the ball on. But again, I don't get paid to make those decisions. If I did, I think maybe we'd be in a little better position right now.
Strong.
They should be listening to Austin Aries a hell of a lot more than they are. Just my opinion.
I think they are.
Careful, don't say that too loud.
The greatest man that ever lived. Absolute pleasure to have him in our studio.
Thanks, guys.
And, geez, wish we could have you on longer. We did a full hour with you.
That was an hour?
And that was
an
like
hour.
Nothing. Austin Aries, A-double. We'll see. Part of the X Division or not, I don't know. Bound for Glory. We'll see who he gets matched up with. Of course, whatever match he's in, Dave.
The main event.
5-star, baby.
And the biggest pop.
No doubt. Austin Aries, A-double, the greatest man that ever lived, only on Busted Open.